I sat by the fire, trying to keep my hands from freezing. The bitter winds were blowing through the cracks in the old cabin, and you could feel frost building up around the windows. I picked the wrong damn time to go there, that's for sure. The logs cracked and popped as I prayed the small stack of wood would last me until the storm died down. Beside of me, the fire glowed off the paled skin of her corpse. Her meat cooked well on the fire, and thankfully, I had plenty more left to keep me alive. She was a dumb, loud-mouthed bitch. She ran that mouth up until I planted the hatchet into her thick skull. She kept yelling and thrashing around while I dragged her up the mountainside to my favorite kill spot. God, it was so satisfying to shut that trap of hers. Her body flopped to the ground, then rolled around a bit, like they normally do from a swift blow to the head. I normally don't like that because of the mess, but what the fuck? The messier it was, the more satisfying it was to shut her up. It had been a while since I had killed, and I had to rid myself of the itch. I brought her up to my cabin so I could feast in peace and quiet for a weekend, and because the cabin was about a mile away from the kill spot. The wind was fierce, sometimes blowing hard enough to rattle the entire cabin. Occasionally, I could swear I could hear her words coming from the wind. At first, I thought it was the isolation and my stupid brain picking up words out of silence, but it became increasingly obvious. At first, it was only whispers, but once the wind picked up, it became louder.
Frank.
It would say, droning out each word, almost as if it were moaning. The harder the wind whipped, the louder the words were.
Don't you remember us, Frank? Don't you remember us?
Maybe I was going insane, I thought. Maybe I had finally grown a conscience and felt bad for what I had done. Nah, never. I was just going fucking insane finally. I knew it would happen someday. Remember what? I answered back. Yep, I had finally gone totally fucking crazy.
Remember killing us, Frank? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you saved in the sensual climax you get when you cut our throats, bashed our heads in, and shot us in the deep forest while you fondled yourself over our corpses. That, I'm sure you can remember well.
Sure do. What do you want?
We're coming for you, Frank.
Yeah, I'll admit it. I panicked. I got up and ran over to my backpack and found my .45. In a frantic mess, I waved it around. Show your fucking self! Come on! I'm not afraid of you! Who's out there? Why are you fucking with me?
We're not here yet, Frank. But we will be. It won't be long.
The voice said, as it trailed off in laughter.
No.
Laughter that sounded like a crowd laughing in unison.
Fuck this.
I ran into the master bedroom and locked the door with an old iron key that came with the place. Nothing was to come into the room and make it out in one piece. The dresser was nearby, so I shoved it in front of the door. Keep in mind, I haven't had proper military training or anything, so I cowered in the corner with my pistol pointed at the door. It wasn't long before the door started rattling.
Frank.
The voice behind the door calmed as it fumbled with the doorknob. Now I could tell that it was the voice of a woman. The voice sounded familiar.
Do you remember my voice, Frank? My body is in front of the fireplace. Sure you can remember as I screamed at the top of my lungs as you dragged me by my hair through the mud and rocks up the path. You remember taking me to a spot miles into the woods, far away from prying eyes or ears that could hear me scream for help.
It started ramming the door, the dresser bulging just slightly with each thump.
Frank, no matter what you do, we will get you. All of us, we are all here. Nothing will stop us from seeking our revenge from what you did to us.
The voice informed me as it kept ramming the door. The thing behind the door stopped, then gave one great heave, shoving the door wide open, and the dresser flew across the room into the wall, leaving a hole where it hit. In the doorway stood the partially eaten corpse of the woman I had killed earlier that day. Behind her stood several other mangled corpses, all ranging from slightly decomposed to I don't know how they were able to walk, rotten. The stench hit me then also, the gut-churning stench of rotten meat. At once, they all spoke.
We told you we were coming, Frank. Now it's time to pay. It's time to atone for all your sins.
The ones who could run did. The others who were barely put together just shuffled as fast as they could, but they were on me in no time. I watched as they chewed and pulled at my flesh, felt them devour my innards and my meat, heard them moan with intense pleasure as the taste of my body touched their hungry palates. That was the last thing I remember. I woke up in a hospital bed, my arm handcuffed to the bed. An officer was sitting next to my bed, and when he saw I was awake, he stood up. "Mr. Frank Russo, you're under arrest for the murders of 9 women." "What? What are you talking about? How did I get here?" "I'm not surprised you don't remember. A park ranger found you passed out in the snow, nearly froze to death. They found a note in your hand, a handwritten confession to everything you had done." I sighed. "They got their revenge, all right." "What was that?" "Nothing. Take me in. I'll confess. I'll tell you everything." After the doctor cleared me to leave, they took me to the station. I told them everything. It was time to atone for everything I had done. After I was finished, the officer taking notes looked up at me. "Is that all?" "Well, as I was passed out in the snow, I had a dream that came back to life and ate me. Funny shit, right? I guess I do have a conscience." The officer stared at me with confusion. "Mr. Russo, you do know that we found bite marks all over your body. The doctors have been wondering how you got that many, but we paid little attention to it." I paused, lifting my shirt. They were all over my stomach and chest. Bite marks. Human bite marks. They weren't very deep, like something a toddler would do. I screamed. "What the fuck?" That's exactly what we were wondering, the officer said as he took a sip from his coffee. One more thing. Did you find someone in your cabin? We found this huge hole in the wall from what appears to have been a dresser thrown into it, Mr. Russo. I fainted. Here I am, sitting on this bunk, writing all this down to keep myself sane, to remind myself that it did happen to me. I still dream about them sometimes. They haven't left me alone either. They come back, almost every night, either in my dreams or they wake me up from my slumber, reenacting what I did to each of them, reminding me of the pain and suffering they endured at my hands. And the worst part, they always tell me they are still hungry.